Hey everyone, welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm the show host over here. Appreciate you guys pressing play on another one of our episodes. This is a podcast that is truly an honor for me to get to be a part of. Recording with the one and only Jim Shockey on our podcast this week. Very, very honored that he accepted our invitation to come on the show and that I got to sit here for roughly an hour and a half and talk to him about hunting and the outdoors and a bunch of different avenues related to that. So I'm not going to try and summarize the conversation here in the intro. I'm just going to get through the housekeeping real quick and turn over to the conversation with Jim and let you guys enjoy, because it is truly inspiring hearing him talk about his love and his passion that he has for hunting in the outdoors and family and like I said, so many avenues of this thing. So before we get to the conversation, I'll hit a couple quick housekeeping things for the show. First and foremost, if you guys are tuning into Fall Obsession Podcast for the very first time, thank you again, and make sure that you hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're streaming on. We are on all major podcast platforms, as well as Carbon TV, Waypoint TV, YouTube. So wherever you're tuning in, subscribe to the show, like, follow, whatever they have up there for you, and make sure your notifications are turned on. That way you know every Monday morning when a new one of our podcast episodes come out. If you enjoy watching the podcast videos, you can find those on the YouTube channel. We put out the audio versions of our episodes on Mondays, and the video version always hits the YouTube on the Thursday of the same week. So again, if you like watching the podcast videos, that's where you can find them. Go to the Fall Obsession YouTube channel and subscribe over there, because we have more than just the podcast videos on there. We also have hunting shows, films, gear reviews, a bunch of other content that we put regularly on that YouTube channel. So be sure you are subscribed over there. Social media, wherever you are active on, Fall Obsession is probably there too. Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, we're on all those platforms. So be sure you like and follow for daily and frequent updates from our team of hunting and outdoor content creators across the country. We are a hunting and outdoor media production company, and this is what we do. So you guys follow along with the journey and everything we got going on. Fallobsession.com is the website. That's where you guys can go to find all of our content, all of our podcast shows, gear reviews, films, educational articles, wild game recipes, our gear and apparel. It's all on that website. Again, it's fallobsession.com. Go check out everything we got going on over there. And finally, if you guys do not know what Carbon TV is, you need to go look it up and check it out. It is a free hunting and outdoor streaming platform for you guys to watch hundreds of different hunting shows and podcasts from top creators in the industry. You will find 4 different Fall Obsession produced shows on that platform. This podcast, our staff-inspired video podcast series called Couch Chats, is on Carbon TV, as well as our 2 different hunting shows, Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. Guys, go download the Carbon TV app, put it on your smart TV, pull it up on your computer, whatever it might be, and start streaming today. And with that, and no further delay, we're going to get Jim Shockey in here for an awesome conversation with him. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. My name is Sam, hosting you guys, and my guest this week needs no introduction. Jim Shockey, welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, sir. Happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've been looking forward to this one and getting the opportunity to chat with you, and just to get everything rolling and everything. I just wanted to see how's your summer been. What have you been up to this summer?
It's been great. I've been prawning and shrimping and crabbing just about every day, octopusing.
Oh wow.
We've got guests just about every day as well. Eva was out here with 2 of my grandchildren here recently, and Serena's had her dad just left yesterday. He was out here, and her friends, families, So yeah, we've had a wonderful family, friends, and living the field to table lifestyle. It's I mean perfect. Vancouver Island, summertime there just isn't any better place.
It sounds like paradise for sure. That's incredible.
Yeah, we love it here. I've been here 39 years now on the island, and yeah, it's June, July, August, September, fantastic. Then it
Mm-hmm.
gets starts to get a little gray and drizzly about middle of October, and stays that way pretty much until March,
Yeah.
April.
So when does it switch over for you? When does it switch from that summer mentality into the fall hunting mode, if you will?
Yeah, that's a funny thing because this morning I woke up and I don't know what it is. Maybe those of us that are hunters, we have a sense. We understand the barometric pressure or something. But when I woke up this morning and I stepped outside, I had my coffee, and there was just a crispness in the air, and I know that it was just like ooh, deja vu. Within a couple of weeks, there'll start to be fog on the lake
Mm-hmm.
in front of us. I live on a lake, 70 acres out here on the island, and it started. I mean, this is now started. The fall is coming, and I already sense it. My body does. It's not conscious. It's just I don't know. It's not a sixth sense. I think it's just an innate ability that we have as hunters to recognize that it's that time of the year that we have to start. Well, thank you. Getting in sheep shape for me.
Yeah.
That'll be the primary goal for the next few days, or well, next month. We I My first guys are already up in the Yukon, my Rogue River outfitting territory. They're already up there. Christian went up. Taylor's already up there. They're working on the Argos, making sure the boats are all running and setting up camps. So our first sheep hunter season opens August 1st, so just in a few days. But our first sheep hunter will come in, I think, about the 7th of August. So yeah, it's I think it's something inside us that we just know it's time. It's time.
Yeah, it's part of our identity as hunters for sure. I couldn't agree more. I have had those moments as well. I am the feel like the other side of the planet from you. I'm down here in Texas in the flat, hot, dry Lone Star State. But
Oh boy.
the first morning that we wake up where you got that cool breeze blowing and everything, it sends chills down my back. I'm ready to be in a tree stand chasing big whitetails at that point. So
Yeah. Do you guys ever get a cool breeze?
uh,
I don't know about that in August or July in Texas.
yeah, this time of year, absolutely not. But no, come September, it'll start cooling off in the mornings and everything. And our archery opener for deer hunting down here isn't until the end of September, so we still have a little bit longer to wait if you're hunting in state down here. But yeah, you'll start getting those cool mornings, here in another 6 weeks or
You
so.
say you want to get in a tree stand. You guys even have trees down there. That's,
You're making some very valid points for sure. I love being in a tree. I'm an archery guy, so I like that's just where I want to be. And my tree stands in Texas, they are certainly not as tall as I would like them to be. Like I'm normally under 20 feet because that's the most that I can get out of a setup. But I would 10 out of 10 take that over hunting on the ground or hunting in a blind for white-tailed deer. That's my
is that right?
preference. Yeah, I
yeah,
love being in a
see,
tree.
I did that sort of monkey stuff for a few hunts. And I said, you guys down south can keep that. We use ground blinds, and I mean, I just love being, eye level with those deer when they come in. I mean, they're right there beside, 20 feet away. It's super cool. And plus, I'm not that good of an archery shot at an angle like that. I've never quite figured that one out. So,
It takes some
so
some
I'm
getting
better
used
off with the wider target, the bigger target from being, parallel with them.
No, there's a love for every part of it. I certainly have ground blinds and hunt from the ground from time to time, depending on what the weather and everything dictates where my setup needs to be and stuff. But I've started hunting out west a little bit as well, and like spot and stalk hunting on the ground in that regard, as I'm sure you're well aware, there's an adrenaline rush to that eats at me as well. Like I can't get enough of that either, and I'm a Texas boy, but I love going out west. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I like both.
yeah.
I mean, there's I've been all over the world, and there's places they don't sit, and to me it makes no sense. Sit.
Hmm.
I know within the next 3 days the animal we're after is going to come by here. Within shooting distance. It's just a fact. So why do we want to chase after them and run around and bump them and spook them and scare them, and probably maybe not even find them
Right.
if we're depending on the animal we're hunting for. Why not just sit here and let them come to us? So I love sitting. I'll sit for, I mean, 30, what was my record? It was like 37 days for a whitetail buck, one
Oh wow.
particular buck. Day after day, pre-dawn till about noon, I get off and go check my trail cameras and get back on stand at 2 and till dark every single day for 37 days before he finally came in for the first time. And then I had no daylight pictures of him, not one single daylight picture. So I'll sit, but I also like, it's a far more challenging hunt, skill wise, to spot and stalk, especially if you're using archery. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
factors that are out of your control. The wind and what happens, branches and wiggling, the animal moving, where are you going to go? You got to move. Can't spook them, blah, 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 blah. So it's they're both fantastic ways to hunt. And depending on the situation, I'll do either one.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I was just talking with a guest on this show not that long ago about kind of that very thing, just the differences in sitting and then the spot and stalk side of everything. And for me, what I've observed is I think that those opportunities that I have to go out west and do the spot and stalk and to be in that animal's environment trying to hunt them with a bow, I feel like it makes me a better woodsman because down here where I'm at, you learn the property, you learn the deer, you learn the area, you have your stands, and it becomes easy to kind of get into a rut of complacency, I feel like, when it comes to that. Whereas when I'm preparing for a mule deer or an elk hunt or something out west, there's all this prep work before I even leave my house that goes into preparing for this hunt, to learning the animal. And I feel like I'm just a sponge, just soaking it all in when I'm out there. And even though it's a more narrow time window, time frame, I feel like I'm so much more in tune with the animal and learning that animal and learning how to hunt it, that it makes me better at all facets of hunting. That's my experience at least.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, the skill levels is higher to spot and stalk and pull a bow back and get the animal. It's just degree of difficulty is greater. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being complacent either. There's too many people don't, they don't have the patience. So they
Yep,
want to go chase after the deer, try and sneak up on them all the time, and it's not effective.
that's true.
In certain situations, you're just better to sit. So they're both. But yeah, if I'm feeling a little bit lazy, I'll sit. It's more work to spot and stalk as well.
Where were you at for that whitetail hunt where you said you hunted for 37 days?
That was in Saskatchewan. At I have a ranch out there still. It's 2,200 acres, and it's just got some great whitetails on it till they step off. I mean, it's they step out of my land. I mean, literally, you can just watch the cars go by at night road hunting, and I
Mm.
know there's guys at bait stations all around my property that the instant that deer even gets close to the fence line, they get they get hammered. So there's good deer, but that particular buck was he was just smart. I had one daylight picture of him in 3 years, and I had
Wow.
him on camera for 3 years. Um, Big, non-typical. When I finally got him, he was scored 193 and change as a non-typical, like a third main beam. He was just a magnificent chocolate antlered, but heavy Saskatchewan gnarly buck.
Wow.
And I really wanted him, and it was like I say, he was smart enough that if those other guys were getting him on their trail cameras on my outside of my property on the perimeter, Um, they certainly weren't getting daylight pictures of him either. He just was, he was a nighttime deer. I'd have him on, I think I had him on 11 different trail cameras on my land. Like, he, he'd go
They
by
had
it
a
and go, "Oh, is
route,
it?"
yeah.
Yeah. So it was, that was a good, I like those kind of deer that are super smart. They take a long time to get, but I'm probably going to get them on my land as opposed to someone sniping them from the outside.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was Saskatchewan. I grew up there. I grew up in a trailer park just outside of Saskatoon and left at 17 for university out on the west coast here in British Columbia.
Hey guys, sorry to cut y'all off from the conversation. We'll get back to it in just a second, but first I want to tell you guys about Hoot Camo. Hoot Camo is one of the best camouflage brands out there for the blue collar hunter. The prices, you can't beat them. The patterns are extremely versatile. They work in so many different environments. I have worn Hoot Camo hunting whitetails, hogs, and turkeys down here in the hardwoods, the mesquites, the scrub brush of Texas. I've worn it in the flatland plains of eastern Colorado hunting mule deer. I've even worn it in the mountains of central Idaho hunting elk. It works in so many different places. It is extremely high quality gear, extremely warm, holds up well against the elements. You cannot beat it. Go to hootcamo.com, use the code FallObsession15 on your next order, no matter how big or small it is, and check out everything that Hoot Camo has on there for you guys.
But I went back hunting 43 years straight with my dad, and we hunted, that was our family ranch. I hunted it with Dad so many times with my cousin Guy. Eva, hunted on it. My son Brandon hunted on it. Obviously my dad, my uncles. I mean, it's yeah, that's a tradition that goes back in our family. Unfortunately, now they've changed the laws out there, so I have to be drawn to hunt on my own ranch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and it's not because there's a limited number of tags. They're not trying to limit the harvest because residents of Saskatchewan they can hunt all around there. They don't need to be drawn. They just go buy a tag and shoot a deer. So they're not. It's not like they're trying to limit the harvest. They're just trying to control the non-residents. So they let 10 or 12 non-residents in that whole zone. And non-residents, they have to be Canadian residents, just not living. Even though you own the land, you don't get put in a special pool. So,
Oh, wow.
so I didn't get drawn this year. I'm not going to be able to go out there and hunt.
Mm.
Last year I was out there. I had 5 big bucks on my land on camera, and 3 of them got busted when they stepped across the fence line. Close to the fence line, and and then the fourth biggest, I got a big 4x4, and then there's one more that's still left. He was the 5th biggest, so I don't know if he'll make it through this season. If he keeps his nose down and stays inside that fence line,
Yeah.
at least a couple hundred yards inside it, he should be fine.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. The you brought up just the restriction on the non-residents for that area that you have your ranch in. I've been very in tune as far as just in the United States with what's been going on in recent years and months with some legislation affecting hunting and bans and a bunch of stuff going on in Colorado, a public land issue here recently. But what sort of legislation up there in your area do you feel like is there anything that's hindering hunters in that regard, if that question makes sense? I'm not very familiar with what's going on in Canada, if
Yeah.
there is anything.
Yeah, I mean, we have similar issues up here. And I mean, here's the thing. As a BC resident, I like that Canadian residents, if they want to come in, they either have to go with an outfitter, which is highly regulated.
Mm-hmm.
Outfitters are allowed, X amount of whatever, deer, moose, bears, sheep, goats. So anyone that's outside of any non-resident has to come with an outfitter of British Columbia if they just want to come and hunt. They, they cannot just buy a tag over the counter to hunt. Now, and the reason, we've probably got 17 of the 30 big game species here in BC. It's really like the Serengeti, and we would be inundated, like tens of thousands of hunters would be coming up here every fall, which is good for the economy. The restaurants would love it, hotels would love it, gas stations would love it. So I get that side of it too. but as a hunter, the wildlife can't sustain that, and wildlife has to be managed. Um, that's how they limit it here in British Columbia. And as a Canadian resident, you can come here and hunt with me as a British Columbia resident if I apply for a tag to a company or it's like a Class C guide license.
Okay.
There cannot be any real or perceived gain. So you can't trade me a whitetail hunt in Saskatchewan for a moose hunt out here in BC. That's real or perceived gain. But an uncle, cousin, aunt, whatever, they can come here every year. I can apply for the license and I can take them for some of the species, not for sheep. They're limited entry everywhere. Not for grizzly bear, which are closed anyway now here in British Columbia. So like they're careful about what species. So the real exotic high-end species, they don't let someone come. Anyway, it's a complicated way of saying that there's some form of socialism involved with the wildlife here in British Columbia.
I got you.
And there is everywhere. When they limit the number of Canadian residents coming into a place, that's they're pulling the that's a page out of the socialist book. Let's control it all. But in this case, for wildlife management, I agree with it because the animals just can't take the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have that, and as a BC resident, I'm sure there's guys just say, I don't want to see anybody non-resident here. I want all the animals for myself. And our wildlife is managed by province here. So just like yours is managed by state, ours is managed by province. It's not federal. So, the residents of BC don't want to see anybody come in. The residents of Saskatchewan, they want to keep all the deer for themselves. Why should someone from British Columbia be able to come out here, even if they own land? They don't live here. I live here. I pay taxes here. Mind you, I pay taxes too, more than anybody in that area for my ranch.
Right.
So, the residents have they have a valid argument. Why do we want any non-residents? On the other hand, speaking from up here in Canada, this is Canada. This isn't the country of Saskatchewan or the country of British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
So, you do have a responsibility to other Canadians, in my opinion. And that's to, give them an opportunity. It may not be as great as the opportunity that you have as a BC resident or a Saskatchewan resident, but they should have an opportunity of some description. And that's where, Saskatchewan does allow it. If you get drawn, you get drawn. And it's irritating for me as I consider myself a Saskatchewan boy, still, always will. I grew up there. My family's all out there, extended family, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think each province, each state has a responsibility to other states and provinces. Then you get into other countries. Should a Canadian be able to allowed to be hunting in the U.S.?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of good neighborly thing to do, and you can hunt most countries around the world as long as it's highly regulated, and that's where you get the outfitting opportunities, which creates an industry.
Mm-hmm.
And the spin-offs are in the tens of millions of dollars for the outfitting industry here in British Columbia. You want to come for a stone sheep, you're gonna pay, and you're gonna support the Canadian economy.
Oh yeah.
More specifically, the BC economy, and even more specifically, the local economy in whatever area you're hunting. So there has to be some concessions as well given to alien non-residents, meaning someone outside of your own country. So I see all sides of it.
Yeah.
As a resident who would never hunt anywhere else, I'd say I don't want anybody here. I want to possess it. It's all mine. It's mine, 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 mine. But there's lots of BC residents hunt in Saskatchewan and Alberta and down in the States. So those guys are saying, well, yeah, I want opportunities to hunt there, so they should have it should be equal opportunities, or at least an opportunity to hunt here. It's got to be managed for your province or your state, depending on the demand that would happen if you just open it wide open. So
Right.
So I see all sides of the story. I'm a resident. I'm also a non-resident, and I'm also a non-resident alien. Hunted all over the world. So I see all of it, and I'm an outfitter. So I make a living at taking hunters up into my Yukon outfitting territory.
Yeah.
And I'm an outfitter. Here's another thing. I'm an outfitter in Saskatchewan as well. I have been since about 90, probably 96. Wow. Holy cow, it's almost 20 years now. Am I adding that, or is that almost 30
That would be
years?
30, yeah.
That's almost 30 years. Yikes. Do I have gray hair? I better check that. The you know, and I haven't taken a hunter. I have 40 tags out there in Saskatchewan. I've got a lodge. And every year we go out there and set up stands and baits and seeing, trail cameras to see what's out there. And I have not taken a paying client since 2012.
Oh, wow.
And 2012, I took 12 guys out of the 40 that I could take, and we were, pretty darn successful. But I didn't take anyone before 2012 since 2007. So do the math on that. Almost 20 years, I've taken 12 hunters,
Wow.
12 paying hunters, and that's it. And the reason is because as an outfitter, I feel responsible for managing my own wildlife regardless of what the government says and regardless of what the residents are doing or regardless of what my fellow outfitters might be doing. I won't sell a hunt because there's not enough deer there. There just isn't. I pay all the prices that you have to pay as if you got clients coming, but if I don't see the deer on camera, then I'm not going to go kill what's there. They need to recover. And we had bad winters in 13 and 14 and really bad winter in 2007. And those 3 bad winters have basically, put me out of the outfitting business in Saskatchewan.
Wow.
So guys will say outfitters are terrible. No, they're not. No, they're not. We're responsible. I actually control how many non-residents can come in there, and none. None are coming in there. None.
Yeah.
So are the residents still hunting there? Yeah, they are. So who's managing that population better? It should be left alone. It'll probably take, I mean, I don't know. If we don't get any bad winters, it might be another 2 decades before I see those deer coming back in that area.
Wow.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not. And, wolves were a big problem as well. Because once we had those bad winters, the wolves came from the north and, we'd see 30 wolves in a pack. And they're killing 1 deer each a week. Do the numbers. How long does it take for a wolf pack like that to decimate the deer in an area?
Yeah.
So, it's just, again, it's mismanagement, not mismanagement. It's, it's acts of God. Those kind of winters are acts of God. We lost 95% of our deer population in 1 winter.
Wow.
What do you do?
That's crazy.
So again, back to your original question, I see all sides of it. I see all sides of the story, and there is no right and there is no wrong, and everybody fights against each other. I want this, I hate this, you hate me, I hate you, and it just, we can't. We're all basically in the same boat. I liken it to I tell a story about the 2 dinosaurs. I made this one up, by the way. 2 dinosaurs, talking to each other, and one saying, "Oh, you're just a stupid dinosaur. Look, I have 3 toes. I've evolved, and you have 4 toes. Like you're such a dunce. You're old school. You're archaic. You don't know anything. And they hated each other. And the one was saying how much better it was because it's got 3 toes. While the comet's coming at them, and they're looking up there and saying, "Yep, I've got 3 toes. I've evolved. I'm a dinosaur with 3 toes," and the comet hits and they all die. So we need to be together, not arguing among each other because I have 3 toes or 4 toes, and I use bow and arrow, I use traditional bow, I use a crossbow, I use a rifle, I use a muzzleloader, I use an inline muzzleloader, I don't use a scope. I mean, give me a break. We're all hunters, we're all kindred spirits, and we need to actually be together. Dog hunting is great. I'm happy for dog hunting. So is bait hunting and you name it. I don't care. We're all hunters. As long as it's legal, then I don't judge. We need to be together. And it's the same thing for the resident, non-resident. We need to manage it. And we need to accept that there's a responsibility to allow others to enjoy the wildlife that we also enjoy. Maybe not at the same level and with the same opportunities, but some opportunities in some way, matter, fashion, or form.
Absolutely. That's very well said. I couldn't agree more. I do have a question because you went into a little bit of a conversation about outfitting and everything and the impacts of the populations and that impacting how many clients you have, how many people you're taking out there. With all the different species you have available, different locations, all that kind of stuff, or just the size of it, what's the legwork look like for you and your operation to get an accurate inventory of the animals that you have and to make those decisions as far as, okay, I can take people or this many people deer hunting this year or up in the mountains this year for this animal. What does that look like for y'all?
Yeah, I mean, the Yukon is my big operation. It's 7.5 million acres. So I know you guys down there have some big ranches. What's the
That's
King Ranch? Was a million acres at one time?
yeah, it's
You could
it's somewhere in that neighborhood for sure.
Yeah, you can put
It's
7 King Ranches inside of my outfitting territory.
that's a
The
huge
difference
area.
is there's not a single road in that entire 7.5 million acres.
Hey folks, if you guys are in the North Texas area like I am, then you need to go to Bear River Archery and Pro Shop in Van Alstyne, Texas. Justin and the guys up there have an incredible operation set up. They will take great care of you and all of your archery needs. They are the official bow shop in North Texas of Fall Obsession. I love going there, and I'm picky. If you guys know me, I am very selective on who I let work on my bow. I will let Justin work on my bow. They do great stuff. Check out Bear River Archery and let them know that Fall Obsession sent you.
Not one road. There's only my camps on lakes and rivers, no houses, nothing. And so inventorying the wildlife obviously is can only be done by airplane, and it's expensive. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my guys were flying out yesterday. We're inventorying our sheep in my territory. In my Yukon outfitting territory, it's demanding when it comes to sheep hunting. It's the toughest sheep hunting anyone will ever do. I mean, you've got to be in shape. You've got to be, this isn't, taking a big fat horse up, to the high country, setting up a camp and going on day hikes with you, maybe day hikes or take the horse up halfway up the hill. And, there's none of that. This is whatever you have is on your back, and you're going to be crawling up on the mountain carrying your 14 days worth of food and sitting up there in the fog and rain and sleet and snow and hoping to find your ram.
Mm-hmm.
But I would need to know what the census is because it's hungry country for sheep up there in my area. We're just marginal winter habitat. So, the sheep will come in from other areas for the summer and then go back in the winter. But if they hang out in there in the winter, we can lose a band of rams just with a slide. Boom, they're dead, or they get caught in a bad side of a mountain in a blizzard and they just starve. So
Wow.
so the cost isn't it's not the government doesn't help me defray any of those costs. This is just us doing a census of our own sheep, and so we fly, and it costs a lot of money for that airplane, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you crash one like we did 2 years ago. So then I had to rebuild it all for $250,000 or 220, whatever it
Oh
was.
wow.
It's you don't factor that stuff in, and yeah, you got insurance, but it didn't cover the full rebuild, and also my insurance for flying the darn thing has gone way up. So all those numbers mean that we're doing it really out of the goodness of our heart because I don't make money on the sheep hunts, but we still do the census. So, and moose will be the same. We'll fly over a lot of the area before we take moose hunters and just see what's out there, get a sense of, are the moose populated? But up there, because there's no roads, no logging roads, no mining roads, we have not turned the wolves into uber predators. The wolves, it's still tough country for them to hunt. They've got
Yeah.
to, go over the logs and span out and try and find caribou and moose. Um, in a lot of the country here in BC, there's logging roads. So they just run a logging road, fat and easy till they hit a track and go kill the animal, come back on the road, go kill another animal. They can't do that up there. So our wildlife, it's pretty well stayed stable and there's no human, no one flies in there. It's way too expensive. So without the human pressure, and the wolves have to actually be wolves and fight for a living. Grizzly bears, same thing. The populations have pretty well stayed stable, I would say, since the last ice age. We don't see much difference every year, and I think I get 46 moose tags a year in that
Mm.
7.5 million acres. And anyone out there's, that's a lot of moose tags to take out of that area. Well, think about this. It's, 12, 13,000 square miles. It's a
That's a lot of
big
area.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not even touching the population, and we can only hunt them close to where lakes or rivers, basically, because we got to be able to get an airplane in there to fly it out.
Hmm.
So, I get 46 tags, and we probably book maybe max 40 hunters. So I don't even use the other six tags, even though they're there available. If there's a big demand and I don't know, we could take more. And even if they don't get a moose, which isn't very often, I can rebook that hunt. So I could make a lot more money if I was serious about making money, but I'm not. I'm more serious about managing the wildlife in a sustainable way that also gives our hunters a high success rate.
Hmm.
And we're sort of 90% success on moose that average 61 inches up
Wow.
there. Some years even a little bit higher, 62 inches. And like last year, 39 out of 40 hunters got moose. So
That's
or
incredible.
at least if they didn't get one, they maybe wounded one, or we're hunting bow and arrow, which you hunt bow and arrow and you got a big giant bull standing there at 60 yards, 70 yards, and you don't want to take the shot. That's not my problem. That's you wanted to be a bow hunter. The guy did everything he had to. So,
Yeah.
you know, or they play the turn down game. Well, that's not big enough. I want a 70 incher. Okay. Great. We'll keep looking, but 70 inches I've taken two in my life. And we've outfitted for a pile of them, of course, but I've hunted moose for almost 50 years straight, and I've taken two. And in pretty good areas, and I get to hunt more than just a regular hunt length.
Hmm.
Except this year, I'll head up there in a end of August, and I only have this year 10 days, and then I have to get to the Middle East. Um, I think we're going to Qatar and Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. Some of the
Wow.
sheikhs over there want to show me what they're doing to repatriate the wildlife that they decimated earlier in the history of those countries. So we'll do a tour of there and see what they're doing with the gazelles, baby ibex, and but anyway. So this year I don't have as long, but normally I have a lot of time to hunt the moose, and
Yeah.
so yeah, we yeah, that's when you're back to your question about the what's involved with the front loading and the work and whatnot. That's first thing we're doing is flying is to do a census on
Hmm.
our own,
Gotcha.
above and beyond whatever the government's done already. We have better numbers than they do. Just a quick side story. There's a lot of grizzly bears up there, and they give us a very tight quota, and they basically said there's our model shows there's four grizzly bears in this particular area. That's how the max there can be because of our computer model. And I told him, I said, well, I just counted 30 of your four grizzly bears, and they're all different bears, and we got them on camera.
Wow.
So, there's a heck of a lot more than your computer model shows. So our census are more accurate in a lot of ways. Feet on the ground, we're out there. We see it. We're not sitting in an office running a computer on a program that's going to tell me how many moose based on the habitat. I mean, or how many wolves or how many bears. It's we're actually out there, feet on the ground. Yeah, it's layman, it's not science, but I can tell you there's 30 grizzly bears there, because I saw them. 30 different grizzly
Yeah.
bears, and you guys say there's four. So it's yeah, it's yeah, there's a lot of work. You want to be an outfitter, and there's a reason you don't ever see an outfitter drive around in his own private jet because you're doing it for lifestyle, not for money.
Yeah. No. What is your favorite animal to hunt out of all the opportunities that you have or have had? What is the thing that you keep coming back to and is your number one?
Moose,
Moose.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
What?
there's nothing. Alaskan Yukon moose, more specifically in the Yukon, it's the last greatest, purest wilderness left in this planet. Siberia is like Grand Central Station. There's always boats up every river, and there's people all over the place. Um, the Yukon, that's not the way it is. It's just pure wilderness. And when you see one of those, great big bulls, 3 miles away, and it looks like he's got two sheets of plywood, and and you make a call, and you see him go, oh, like this, and oh, yeah. and then start coming from that distance. There's just and coming right into 20 feet. There's nothing like it. There just is nothing like it. It's and they're so big, and they taste really good. I mean, that's where I grew up eating, yeah, it's moose is a very special animal. Where they live, the antlers. I mean, the fastest growing bone in the world. And elk are wonderful. And if I could only hunt one animal for the rest of my life, it would be white-tailed deer.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I grew up on white-tailed deer. Got my first one at 14, and I try and hunt every year. Although I didn't get drawn this year, but white-tailed deer. If I could only hunt one species for the rest of my life, but moose are my favorite, and I'll hunt them as long as I am able to get in and out of the airplane, which isn't that easy when you get all crippled up from arthritis. But and then to be able to get to the camps and sit in a boat, or as long as I mean, I guided my dad to his last moose when he was 79, and then after that it got a little tougher for him. I took him out to the camp when he was 80, but it was just getting a little bit too remote to have him at that age out there. So
Yeah.
what am I, 67 right now? I'm hoping to get another 12 years of moose hunting in.
Yeah. Another
But then
decade in you.
after that, I'll go back to whitetails and just, Dad got his last whitetail when he was 85.
Wow.
So, that's you can hunt whitetails longer. So that's probably why, if I can only hunt one species, it would be white-tailed deer.
Gotcha. Very interesting. So I do have a question for you, kind of stemming off of that a little bit, because you have been, I mean, you've been a hunter your whole life, but you've been a staple in the hunting and outdoor world, hunting and outdoor media on top of that for decades. Do you still have the same enjoyment and excitement from it all that you had years ago when this whole thing was really taking off?
Oh, absolutely. I'm I'm as excited to hunt a rabbit or a squirrel as I am a moose or a Cape buffalo. I still, I mean, we get one life. We get one life, and the beauty and amazement and wonder and adventure of a hunt, to be a hunter, we're so privileged. So I will never squander that. And I won't waste one day of it by thinking, oh, ho hum, just another deer. Never. I'll never do that. And I don't kill just for the sake of killing something for a camera, or I don't do that. It makes no sense to me. I'm always hunting for. I mean, I hunted all over the world for my museum here that I'm actually sitting. I'm in the edit suite in our museum, our Hand of Man Museum of Natural History, Cultural Arts, and Conservation. So, to get these species, you can't go buy them. Certainly not in Canada. Maybe in Texas, you can buy some of these wildlife species. I see them come up at auctions once in a while down there, but the majority you can't buy. You have to go hunt them, and that's what they want, is the money to go into those communities, there, rather than them hunting one for $50, selling it into a poacher's market, and it ends up somewhere that gets bought in North America eventually. So they want you to go spend your thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in the communities there. So, there's a good reason for it, and I supported that. And I went all over the world doing that, and I loved every second of it. I still, to this day, like even when I woke up this morning and stood out there with my coffee and felt that little bit of a chill in the morning, going, oh, it's on, it's coming. And I get to go, I still have another month before I can be in the Yukon, but it's a month only. Between there and now I'll be fishing for crab and prawn and shrimp and octopus, and I'll be just as excited as I pull up one of those as I am with a big moose, or one of the traps with seeing what's in there, or their spot prawns, or the royal shrimp, or their they're called dock shrimp, or the pelagic pink shrimp. I mean, I love these. And maybe there's an octopus crawler, or maybe two octopus, and then I'll be mad that he ate a bunch of my prawns while he was in there, but then happy because he weighs a lot more than those prawns that he ate. So it's it's a pretty good return on your investment when you get an octopus. Or crabs, is a rock crab, is a Dungeness crab. and it's the same thing for hunting rabbits. You know, is it a rabbit? Is it what size? I mean, you know, I went and checked my mouse trap line this morning at our house. You know, I've got a perimeter trap line around the house that I set every night, you know, and then get up in the morning excited to see, you know, if I caught a mouse or, you know, God forbid a rat. But it's, yeah, I'm just as excited. We get one life, and yeah, I love it. Every interaction with every animal. I don't need to kill it. I just went to Africa for 6 weeks, and I only hunted two animals. You know,
Hmm.
the Javan rusa deer, both of them Java rusa deer on the island of Mauritius, just because I'd never been to Mauritius. And I have hunted Javan rusa deer before in Papua New Guinea and also up the Fly River in Papua New Guinea. And also that was Moluccan rusa deer and Java rusa deer twice on New Caledonia, you know, off the coast of Australia, but never in Mauritius. So I was excited about that. But I was in, you know, Tanzania, one of the greatest hunting destinations in this planet. I saw giant Cape buffalo and, you know, you fringe-eared oryx and
Wow.
Garryneck and the Thompson gazelle, the Grant's gazelle. I didn't hunt any of them, but I took pictures and I love being there and I love interacting with them and being at a water hole and elephants, you know, in the Ngorongoro crater. I saw them like this close and lions and cheetah. We saw, you know, all the, I love it. I love it. I don't need to hunt it to kill it. You know, feel like I'm satisfied with the interaction. And it's the same thing for the wildlife that I'm actually hunting. I don't. It doesn't need to be a 70-inch moose. It can be a rabbit, and I'm excited about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I get to hunt this animal, you know, prepare it, and then cook it and eat it. I mean, how wondrous is that compared to, name say 5 billion people in downtown LA. You know, do they get to do that? No.
No,
You know,
I
what
don't.
about, the whatever 10 million in downtown New York City? They don't even get to experience it. We are so privileged, and I will never squander that. I will never take that for granted, and you know, I'll never be blasé about it and ho hum.
Hey guys, Trophy Edits is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. We all have mounts on our walls that represent a significant moment, a significant harvest in the woods for each and every one of us, and photographs can do the same. I'm sure you guys have pictures from years past, hunting with loved ones or being in the woods with family and friends that also represent those big moments. And what Trophy Edits does is they showcase those moments for you guys, just absolutely make your pictures explode and to the level that you guys can put them on the wall and also have that memory forever represented in your home, your office, your man cave, whatever it might be. Give Trophy Edits a chance to do the work for you guys. And again, they make those pictures just absolutely awesome with their professional team of editors. So go to Trophy Edits website. The link is in the podcast description. That lets them know that you guys came from us, and use the code FALLOBSESSION at checkout to save you guys some money.
No, no, I get just as excited as day one. I always was. The camera was just there. It was ancillary. It had nothing to do with
Yeah.
my feelings about the animal. It was that's how I've been like that since I was 2 years old, with earthworms and beetle bugs and then mice and gophers. You know, not doing the earthworms anymore, but I'll go slug hunting in my garden. I'm seeing a lady now, Serena. My wife, Louise, passed away in 2023. Um, we lived a fairy tale for 39 years, 113 days, 14 and a half hours, and then she went back to heaven. Where she came from, why she chose me, I have no idea. She just picked a scruffer, and she was literally an angel. But I'm seeing a lady now that's Louise was vegetarian when we met, and this lady is 100% vegetarian as well. Serena is her name, and she's very protective of our garden. So when slugs come in there, we get the big banana slugs, they can
Uh-huh.
be 6 inches long. They will decimate like a bed of carrots, or they were in our dill the other day, lettuce, they just destroy it. So, I go slug hunting with her every morning. And I'm excited finding a slug. I mean, that's, so yeah, I guess I started with earthworms and beetle bugs when I was 2, 3 years old, and I'm right back to it now, full circle,
Yeah.
and hunting slugs in the garden and
Yeah.
loving it.
That's awesome. Your entire explanation to that and where you went with that, I love it first and foremost. And I'm gonna point every hunter I know who asks, why do you hunt, or what is the purpose of hunting? That is the answer that they need. That's the definition. Everything that you've framed from the management side of your outfitting endeavors and everything to what you just summed up, that's conservation is what that is. I feel like we have the naive, uneducated person looking from the outside in at the hunting community might just see, oh, I don't know why they kill animals. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems heartless, but they don't understand that hunters are also the people who love these animals, who care for these animals, who want to see these animals thrive at the same time. And that's a disconnect, I believe, that some people just that don't know, can't make that connection in their mind. But everything you just said summed that up perfectly as far as we were to have dominion over these creatures and everything. And it's more than just a kill or anything like that.
Of course it is. Yeah, we're stewards of those animals.
Yes.
And those people in the cities, the urban centers, they'll love them to death.
Mm-hmm.
They care. They do genuinely care. They're just naive. I don't want to say ignorant about the truth, but they certainly are naive about the truth. And when you explain it to them, they're usually, most people are, if they care at all, there's other people they don't care. Give me my hamburger, and cellophane, and I'm happy. I don't think about anything beyond that, and that's fine. But some of us have to care.
Yeah.
And, the ones that care by thinking if they stop and contribute to an animal rights organization or anti-hunting organization, they're helping the animals. They're actually, like I say, they're loving them to death. You're helping pay the costs of those organizations, that are pretty extensive costs, but they still, they'll throw frivolous lawsuits out there and cause animals to suffer in the long run. If they, we want more wildlife, and they'll say, well, that's self-serving because you just want to kill animals. Well, yeah, okay, but we want more wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? And their answer cannot be, we want more wildlife. Their answer can only be, we want to stop hunting.
Yeah.
So even if it's to the detriment of the wildlife, we want more wildlife. They want less of us, which causes less wildlife. So they can't make that connection that their actions are actually creating less wildlife, even though they want more. We're giving value to that wildlife. I would love to see, and someone's going to misquote me on this and take it out of context, but imagine if all those ranchers down in Texas, if, let's say, pronghorn antelope are worth $100,000 each, do you think that they would raise cattle?
No.
Or do you think they'd raise pronghorn antelope?
They'd be going after pronghorn antelope, yeah.
Of course they would. Of course they would. And the problem is the beef, and I don't have a problem with ranching. I think it's great. We've got 8 billion people in this world we have to feed, so they all can't go hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But, meat is cheap, and that's why people want beef. But say it was an antelope and wildlife, elk out there, if they were worth $150,000 each, what if moose were worth, well, moose are, they're pretty remote, examples of anything that is in ranch country, whitetail deer, mule deer. Imagine that they were worth $100,000 to $200,000 each.
Yeah.
Just that, if meat was that price, and that's what those were worth, all those ranchers would be raising those animals. They would be stewarding those animals and getting rid of the cows, getting rid of the sheep that, bring blue tongue and tuberculosis or whatever it is to the wild populations. They would be getting rid of them. And it's one of the reasons desert sheep are doing so much better now, where they are pushing back the domestic sheep because they're worth a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
But again, imagine if all wildlife was worth that. So the hunters go, no, we don't want that. We want cheap meat. Well, that's great, but again, we're at some point, that crush of that mass of humanity, 8 billion is going to be 10 billion, then 20 billion people, they're going to demand that space that wildlife lives in right now has to be cattle, has to be sheep, has to be goats. I mean, there's 25 billion chickens in this world. 25 billion. They are the most successful species of animal that exists in this world today. They figured it out. Symbiotic with those human people, and there's 25 billion of us. Procreation is what we're designed to do.
Hmm.
Propagation, and we're doing it. Look at 25 billion of us. There's 7 billion head of cattle in this world. As we get to 10 billion people and 20 billion people, that number's got to increase because you're going to feed them protein somehow. So they're, unless they start raising insects some way, but
Right.
they're going to take more wildlife habitat. So I mean, we're getting into a lot of philosophy here, but yeah, the bottom line is that most people don't think that deeply about wildlife. They just they donate to the Humane Society and think they're helping
Yeah.
wild species. They're not.
Well, and you spoke to the game animal itself and everything, but the other side of that too, and you're far more familiar with this than I am, but is the predator side of it as well, because you have predators. You talked earlier about the impact in recent years of the wolf population. You have bears and all these top dog predators that they don't have anybody other than man hunting them essentially, or to keep them in balance with other game populations and stuff. And that's another thing that I feel like people fall short in realizing. They want to see more bears on the mountainside, or whatever their argument wants to be, but they don't realize that what the impact of too many bears is going to have on an area or a region or anything like that. So
Sure, yeah. Again, it's loving the animals to death.
hmm
Yeah, you're loving your bears, and here we stopped grizzly bear hunting in British Columbia, and the reason our premier at the time said it's because it's socially unacceptable, and not science. There's no science. This was just socially unacceptable.
yeah, an
Well,
emotional
no,
decision.
sure it is. It's nothing to do with science and reality. So now, it's whatever, it's been 8 years since they banned them, and the numbers, they're starting to swim across the channel to get to Vancouver Island because they're going to get killed if they stay over there. There's too many grizzly bears, and there's not enough food anymore. I think they did a study up in Alaska where they monitored um, at least one male grizzly bear, and that somehow they came up with a number of a male grizzly bear, a mature male, will kill 32 calf caribou and moose every spring. They
Wow.
just follow along, eat the parts they want, go kill another one. Your ungulate population can't survive that, but when you've got checks and balances on the grizzly bear side, the hunting, then yeah, you can survive it. And people will say, well, nature will take care of it. No, no, we've kicked the animals out of all these areas that they used to live in because we live there now. So they're now in smaller areas,
Hmm.
and you've intensified the predation on them by these predators in that smaller area. It's not nature anymore. There's no, there is no wildlife species in this planet that are not managed these days, from whales on down.
Hmm.
They're all managed. They're all managed, and they have to be scientifically managed because we keep encroaching, we keep pushing them into these enclaves where they can, basically they're huddled together, and here comes a grizzly bear, it gets to eat them. Well, they're now when you put 10 grizzly bears eating them, they have nowhere to go. Where are they going to run into? A farmer's field?
Yeah.
They can try that, but they're going to run into fences and dogs and you name it. So, yeah, it's the predation is a serious problem, and they're icons. People, for whatever reason, jump on that. Tigers, lions, grizzly bears, polar bears.
Hmm.
They just love the predators. Wolves. They're the howl. Oh, I mean, I love to hear that in the wilderness. Except when I'm moose hunting, it's kind of irritating. But it is a beautiful sound, and I get it. It's like a loon, ooh, across the water. It's a beautiful sound, but so is an elk bugle,
Hmm.
and so you kind of gotta work for both species, not just that glamour species that you can raise money on as an animal rights organization.
Right.
But that's big business. So that, big business doesn't care. It's soulless. So they don't care. They really don't care, and they're preying. It's predators preying on the goodwill and the soft hearts of people that want to save wildlife. So
Oh
they
yeah.
donate to them.
Now we've
So
had a bunch of conversations in recent years with a lot of stuff happening in the U.S. with some conservation organizations and some folks heavily involved in that. Like I said recently, and yeah, that's the anti-hunting group has it easy because they prey on the emotions of the uneducated. Essentially, is what we found. We as hunters have to come at it factually and scientifically, and also present it in a way that we don't come across as, the cold-hearted killers that the anti-hunters would prefer that we be categorized as. So it's and I think that goes back to a point that you made earlier too, on just we all have to care about the future of hunting together, and we have to be in it together. We have to support one another. We can't be at one another, because when that happens, that's when it opens the door for an opportunity for them to come in and paint us in a bad light in that sense. So
Yeah, of course. I mean, but I don't even know if to support hunting. We need to support wildlife, and hunting will come as a byproduct of that. If we don't
true.
have more wildlife, we're not going to be able to hunt. So we support wildlife, whatever that entails. We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters. I haven't taken any clients, like I say, in since 2007. I've taken 12 clients. I get 40 tags a year that you sell them at $5,000 each, $200,000 a year for 20 years, whatever that number is. That's a lot of money. But
Absolutely.
I didn't go after the money because my responsibility is more wildlife, which is more deer. That's what I care about. Hunting will come when I solve the more deer problem. So all of us need to band together, stop, complaining at each other and infighting. And I'm a three-toed dinosaur, holier than thou, because I don't use dogs, I don't do whatever, and care about the wildlife. So we need to always have that. Then they can't paint us, they can't vilify us because we care about wildlife and want more wildlife, and they're doing things that are more wildlife, even if it means maybe it limits the hunting opportunities. And I know there's guys out there saying, no way, I want to hunt, I want to, whatever. But we really need to do what's right for the wildlife, and then you can't be marginalized. You can't be vilified. You can't be ostracized from mainstream media because we're doing what's right for wildlife. And that's the high road. And
Yes.
hunting will come as a byproduct if we do a good job on the wildlife. Um, and part of that good job, back to, you got to make them worth a lot of money nowadays. If it was a saying, if it pays, it stays. It's a marble murrelet on the West Coast here doesn't pay for those trees not to be cut down, because no one cares about a marble murrelet. But, so the trees are going to get cut down, and there goes its habitat. But if you make that marble murrelet worth whatever, $100,000, and then they'll keep the trees, because they're worth more to have that wildlife in its own habitat than it is to cut the trees down. So it's economics 101. I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't a smart guy in school, but I sure as heck understand a garage sale. And, you know, something that's I want $100 thing, not a 5 cent thing,
Right.
because they'll make more money.
Right.
So that's just economy, and those soulless big businesses, that's what they want. So if they can make more money having wildlife worth more money and not cut down the trees, not put turn beautiful wildlife habitat into monocultures of soybeans, for biofuels or whatever it is. You make the wildlife that lives in the habitat worth enough money, they'll keep the habitat.
Right.
And that's our biggest problem nowadays, is just encroaching on the habitat, pushing the animals, smaller enclaves. That's all over the world.
Yeah, that's a fact. I have a couple questions here for you that are from some members of our own team here at Fall Obsession. We have folks spread out throughout the entire country, U.S., and a couple of folks up in Canada as well, that work for us in different capacities. And when I knew that I would be having a conversation with you, a couple of them had some questions that they wanted to ask. And this first one is specific to the kind of some advancements in recent years in like long-range precision shooting, and that turning into long-range precision rifles that are built for hunting. As an outfitter and in your world, what kind of differences has that made in your abilities or what you're working with from an outfitter perspective on getting hunters on these animals?
Well, I mean, I don't really care how far a rifle shoots.
Okay.
I still need to be close enough to judge the animal
Mm-hmm.
and to know that I can recover him afterwards and know if he's hit properly. If I'm popping away at something at 1,000 yards and it's on the far side of a ridge, the energy on the bullet is not that great at that distance.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Hope you guys are enjoying it. There's so many different places that you guys can tune in to Fall Obsession Podcast, and one of them is the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. Our show, Fall Obsession Podcast, plays on that loop on Mondays. That's the same day as our new publications on the other apps. And there's also tons of other hunting shows and podcasts on there that you guys can listen to. Go download the Outdoor Call radio app today. It is free. You can start streaming immediately. And be sure that you follow their Facebook page, because Outdoors Dan does some live radio shows throughout the week. And even if you are not local to those radio stations, his broadcasts are shared on his Facebook Live. It's Outdoors Dan and the Outdoor Call radio app. Go download it today.
And yes, if you see the animal hunch over and you can see blood on it, you got your spotting scope and you see it go down. Okay, that's one thing, but you can't always see that across at 1,000 yards. And certainly, I would never let a client ever shoot that far. I mean, if we're shooting, I mean, my dad would he would roll over in his grave if I told him I shot an animal at 500 yards. Because with his old 270 4-power scope, 250 yards. I remember he made a shot one time that was, 312 yards. They figured it was, stepped it off, and that was unheard of in those days. Yeah, but the equipment has changed. The optics nowadays are fantastic. The guns, like I shoot a Christensen Arms, it's fantastic. I top it with a Leupold VX6, although I think they want me to try the VX5 now. But I mean, they are just great, and I know I can hold steady enough at 600 yards to make a shot, but I have never done that.
It's
just because it's kind of fun to get closer, and as an outfitter, I have a responsibility to get closer, because
Right.
not every client can hold steady at 600 yards. A lot of clients in a hunting situation with a rest that they have, and yes, it's nice when you can sit on one side in big deep valley and shoot at things against the face of another side. I get that. You can kind of watch them and know where they go afterwards, but our stuff is in, mountain birch this high, and you're trying to shoot over top of it and not stable. We've got the trigger sticks, although I think those are going away pretty quick, the Jim Shockey ones anyway. So most people can't shoot that far. The guns are capable of it,
Right.
but as an outfitter, I would never let anybody do that. And if I can get them 100 yards, that's a heck of a lot higher odds of them making a clean shot than a 200 yards, let alone 300 or 400 yards. But occasionally with the moose, that's as close as you can get, is 400 yards. So, I don't have a problem with guys doing the long range shooting. They just they shoulder a much greater responsibility to go look for that animal afterwards, even if it is, a mile away down in a canyon and back up the other side. You just don't assume you missed it, because
Yeah.
your energy, there's no whump. It's the animal I've seen them stand there, look around and go back to feeding, because the bullet didn't expand at that distance. There wasn't enough energy to create a wallop, so you don't know you hit it. And that's the only thing. I mean, if you're shooting at a gopher, fine, do whatever you want. But, which probably it's a life, and the gophers probably are going to protest me. I'll get a bunch of crappy social media comments from all the gophers that are listening. Wait a minute, I'm alive too. Why should I be any different than an elk? So yeah, to each his own. If it's legal and they're not going to put any regulations on that, and I don't know how they'd enforce anything,
Right.
then have at it. Those guys that shoot like that I mean, they're incredible. I have a fellow, Shane Hoffer, that guided for me for years. He's a Canadian champion sniper guy, and I mean, they can shoot.
Oh
They
yeah.
know all that stuff. I'm just, you know, and then I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
I just want to get closer. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's why I love archery hunting and why I hunted muzzleloader for all those decades and only muzzleloader because I wanted to get close. I like the challenge. But if those guys like the challenge of the shooting part, great. But just make sure you shoulder the responsibility of checking on the animal afterwards.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's a balance of the ability of the equipment, the capability, but then the confidence of the shooter and just ethics in general. I think they play a part in that, and that's long range rifle. That's long range archery as well. I like to fling arrows pretty far, but where I fling my arrows at distances when I'm practicing versus what I'm comfortable actually taking a shot on an animal or a whitetail down here especially is far different. So yeah.
Sure, yeah. They hear the fletching coming and we videoed it in super slow motion. They'll keep eating and then they just go like this because they hear the whistling coming at them.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I know the guys are shooting whatever distances. And at targets, have at it. They shoot 200 yards. I don't care. It's fun. But at game animals, just getting an arrow in something and then tracking it is, it's not my thing. I prefer to be close enough that I know I'm going to get it, where I want it,
Mm-hmm.
and the animal's going to die in a short distance. Just a quick story about that target shooting stuff. And I know there's guys out there that are, like Cam Haines and those guys are shooting their, whatever distances. But the best bow hunter that I know of, and I've met a lot of bow hunters, is a guy named Steve Cobreen. His dad was the brain surgeon, the neurosurgeon that operated on Brady when he was shot with, my brain's gone dead, your president. Um, how come I can't remember that? Oh my God, like
You're, you-
greatest president,
you're talking about Ronald
Reagan.
Reagan, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Steve went over to Africa just to be able to hunt. He lived for 6 weeks in the jungle with the pygmies, and he was younger than me by about 20 years, and I heard about him that this guy is getting all these crazy animals over in Africa. And I was going to Uganda, and we bumped into each other on the Sessi Islands in Uganda, of all places. And I had my bow. And I said, "Oh, you're this new shit hot, archer I heard about, eh?" And Steve is a physical specimen. He's about 6'6", and just built perfectly. I mean, the guy could have done any sport in the planet, and he chose hunting. It's not even a sport. He just as a
Just a
a
passion
life.
for it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And bows, he'd build his own bows.
Oh wow.
He says he'd go through 30 arrows just to pick one. Like he's a fanatic. And so I said, okay, you're so great. Let's have a archery contest, but I'm going to make the rules. And so I said, I'm going to shoot at 20 yards. And we were on a beach and we made a sandbank there. And I said, and you're going to shoot at 100, just to make it fair because you're so great, right? Uh, so we shot 3 arrows and we tied. We tied. He was at 100. I could barely see the target, right? So I said, okay, this is bullshit. I'm gonna change the rules. I'm gonna shoot at 30 yards, and you're gonna shoot at 130 yards. 100, right? I mean, literally, 30 yards is, I think I'm not a bad shot. So I, shot, and did pretty good. He beat me at 130 yards, and when he pulled back, it was literally like a statue. There was zero motion in anything. When he let go, nothing moved. Just the arrow just went blink up at about this angle, and it was way too far to see. And you'd listen and hear thunk, like second later, and we went over and he beat me at 130 yards. So
Wow.
there's guys that are entirely capable, but a target doesn't move.
Mm-hmm.
A target doesn't move. Animals move, and
Yes.
therein lies the biggest problem is long distance archery. Animals will jump string in our cold weather in Saskatchewan at 23 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You better be aiming a little bit low, and then it's a gamble because what if they don't jump string? You don't want to shoot under them.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's my long distance archery humility story because I learned then that there's a whole degree of better archery shooter than I am. Steve Coburn, the best in the world.
Yeah. No, I can relate for sure. Prior to the career I'm in now, I worked at an archery pro shop, and we had several several pretty well-respected archers that would come through there over the years every now and then, and every once in a while you get the chance to be on a range with them and shoot with them and everything. And you mentioned they look like a statue, and that's no lie. They're at full draw, 100 yards, just dropping dimes, just they don't move, and it blew my mind. I was like, this is incredible to watch. Just a crazy thing to see for sure. Mad respect
Yeah,
for them.
yeah, that skill level is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I don't possess it, and I'm certainly not patient enough to, but so I just get closer. You know, that's my whatever. That's great. You shoot 100 yards. I'm going to shoot 20, but I'm going to sneak in on this thing to 20.
Yeah,
You know, that's the fun part for me.
I agree. I love it too. I know we're getting close to our time here. I got a couple more questions for you. This one, the last one that I have from our team is coming from one of our ladies on our team. Her name's Kim, and she's asking more so kind of about your influence on your kids getting involved. I know that you are in the outdoors. That is, I know that you are very, very passionate about this. Have been for a long time. Did that come organically for your children as well, as far as kind of passing down that same passion and drive and love for the outdoors and hunting that you have?
Yeah, I was very conscious. You know, as an outfitter, I see guys. You know, they'll pay $100,000 to take their 12-year-old to go kill a big giant sheep or you know whatever, and it, you know, I've been aware of that, and I was very careful when the children were young, Brandlin and Eva. You know, they're 39 and 37 now, and you know, I exposed them to it, but I never ever forced them or never gave them opportunities beyond what anybody. You know, I could have taken them anywhere and had them shoot whatever. But I remember Brandlin being on stand with me. He was probably 21, and whitetail and a Boone and Crockett whitetail buck walked by, and I said, Brand, you can't shoot that. And he said, why? And he said, because you haven't earned that. I know guys that have spent their entire life in this area trying to get a deer like that. And you know, you get this deer now because of my work and my efforts and, you know, our team's efforts and the, you know, efforts of your mother. Even we put this ranch together, we bought all the land, and you didn't do any of that, you know. So and he understood. He was happy with it because I would have taken away his opportunity for his own accomplishment later on. You know, when he would do that and this deer would walk in and he would be able to shoot it and know that he earned it and worked for it.
Yeah.
So I was very careful about that. You know, I exposed the kids to it, and it's also a, you know, that outfitting life. You get to fly into some place, or exotic, remote location, and there's wildlife, and you're, you know, doing crazy stuff and seeing animals like most people don't ever get the opportunity to experience in places, you know, they can only read about or see on TV shows. And, you know, that's alluring. You know, and outfitting is a lifestyle. You're never going to get rich, as I said earlier. You have a rich lifestyle, the richest of all, but money-wise, no, it's a lifestyle that you're choosing consciously to not make a lot of money and love you the way you live. So I was aware of that. I wanted the children to decide, if you want to be part of the hunting, go ahead. And you know, I'm happy to take you as much as you want to do. Eva, I think she shot a gopher when she was like, I don't know, 7 or something like that. Maybe that's illegal, so don't quote me, but at some young age. And she said it was temporary insanity. And she went off. Louise, my wife that passed away, she was a ballet jazz instructor, and you know, Graceful wanted Eva to get into dance, which Eva did, became a competition salsa dancer, went off to university in Australia, and had nothing to do with hunting. You know, Brandlin loved it. He was out there just, you know, with his little rubber boots on, hiking with me on bear hunts. And, you know, as soon as he was old enough at 10, he took his hunter safety course. And my wife did too at the time. And she was, like I say, she would never hurt a fly, but she thought she wanted to learn it. And Brand beat her, you know, like he was 10 in the test and got a higher mark. So he loved it. But at 16, he came to me and said, Dad, I cannot pursue a career in hunting because I'll always be in your shadow. Everything I accomplish in the hunting world, they're going to say it's because of you, and I'll never never get to where you are because opportunities aren't there for me like they were for you 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So he said, I still want to be in the industry, but I want to do it on the television production side and video, and I'm not gonna, then that way is my thing, not, me just doing your thing. And he hasn't hunted much since. Um, he's gone on, video tons of hunt, been all over the world,
Yeah.
but not hunting himself. And Eve, on the other hand, who didn't hunt, came to us at 21 after university, and Louise and I were sitting there, and she said, I'm ready to learn how to hunt now. I mean, we just about dropped out of our chairs, like, where did this come from? And look at her now. She's one of the biggest influencer, mega influencer apparently, in our world, and great spokesman for women and for hunting.
Yes.
So that she came around on her own on that because I exposed her to it, but didn't force her into it. So you got to let the kids, you show them the fun stuff and let them, like there's wildlife. Look at this. This is fascinating. Here's a baby rabbit. Here's a bird's nest. Here's a robin's egg on the ground that, is broken open because the robins are in that nest. You expose them to the wild world, and then, if they're if they have the desire, they'll come back into it, and who knows when that'll be. Eva was 21, maybe should have been 40. Who knows? And Brandon was in it, and now he's kind of out of it. So everyone has their own pathway, and you let them see the wonders of it, but don't get them addicted to it. Because it's not necessarily what their calling is in life. And
Right.
you want your kids to be happy and do whatever they want and come in, like whenever they're into our world, whenever they can.
Yeah. Good friend of mine, his name's Chester Barnes. He told me one day, he said, my kids may never hunt a day in their adult lives. He goes, but they will know how, and they will understand the why if they want to. And I thought that was very well summed up. So
Yeah, perfect. And they'll come back in someday. It's amazing when once they over their own years of trials and tribulations, getting their life in order, and then suddenly they realize, boy, that was pretty wonderful back then. And I want to go experience, the coyote wind in the morning when you hear the coyote packs start to howl all around you in different areas, and that freshness, the first birds waking up, and the nighttime quietening down. I mean, they'll feel that if you expose it to them, and they'll come back to it down the road, no matter what age they are.
I agree. Well, Jim, to wrap it up, I have a question that I ask everybody, kind of a two-part that joins me for an episode on our show. It's been a part of our show since the very beginning, and I'm really curious what it would be for you, and that is if there is a hunting memory in your life that sticks out as one of the greatest ones you've had.
Oh, that's a tie. My son's first whitetail deer, his first bear, Eva's first whitetail, her first bear. My first deer with my dad.
Yeah.
And my two uncles were there in the truck. I totally road hunted it, so it was kind of embarrassing as a hunt, but that's the way they did it in those days. Those are my dad's last moose. I mean, those are all tied. Anything to do with family. It's nothing to do with the size of the animal, or how wonderful the place was. No, it's anything to do with family. Those are the memories that are like right here at the front of my. I can describe every one of them, every single one of them, and I cannot describe a lot of the world's record animals I hunted. I mean, I remember the animal and the place and the people, but not like I remember any of the hunts with family.
Yeah. That's a great answer. I feel like for most people it is a family-related event or memory that they have for that, and that's a consistent theme I see, and I love it. Last question, we'll let you go. You have hunted a lot of places and some incredible adventures all over the world. Is there anything left on what you would call your bucket list that you haven't gotten to do yet that you want to do?
I've been pretty blessed. I did exactly what I wanted to do for my museum. There just isn't space anymore for bringing in another full body mount of something big. There's not much big out there that I haven't hunted. Just like literally, I did everything I wanted to.
Yeah.
And now I'm, well, like I say, I went to Mauritius and hunted in Javanrusa deer in Mauritius, an island off the coast of Madagascar, which is off the coast of Africa, the east coast. And so there's things like that that I'll pick up as I go along here. And if I'm going, oh, I'm going to be in that area, I think I'll hunt gazelle in the Arab Emirates here, United Arab Emirates, in late September. I'll go do that. But is it a driving force inside me that I got to do this like it was for all those years? I got to travel 306 days a year around the world. I probably travel that much now, but it's not. Like I said, I went to Africa, didn't hunt anything other than those 2 deer. I was there 6 weeks, and some of the greatest safari destinations around. I'm pretty happy where I am, and if the opportunities come, I'll let you young guys go chase all the animals all over the world. If there's the opportunity to go somewhere I haven't been, I'll do it, and hunt something I haven't hunted, I'll do it. But I'll go hunt my moose and my caribou every year. My whitetail deer if I get drawn on my own ranch, which I didn't this year in Saskatchewan. But that's kind of where my hunting's at now. And I'll go for spring bears, but I probably won't shoot anything. I haven't shot one for years. And just want to be there. And I get joy just being out in the wildlands. That's my cathedral.
Yeah, that's a great answer for sure. Well, Jim, I really appreciate your time and joining us for an episode of our show. Thank you. It's been an honor to sit down and talk with you and just, talk about what the thing that we all love, and that's hunting in the outdoors. So thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. For our listeners, thank you all for tuning in to another Fall Obsession podcast. Be back with you guys again next week. I'll catch you then.